All right. Good morning, everyone. My name is Alima Harley. I'm the community liaison here at Broward Healthy Start Coalition. And we have a very, very great program here for you today. It's Let's Talk Mom to Mom. Okay, so right now, October is SIDS Awareness Month as well as Pregnancy and Infant Loss Awareness Month. So, in honor of that, we have three great speakers here today that's going to talk to you about different topics, but also share tips on how you can get through these barriers that, overall happen in life. Okay, so first up, we're going to have Abby Mosher. She's from Tomorrow's Rainbow. She'll be our first speaker, and then we'll be later joined by Blossom Pucci. She's our Safe Sleep Crib coordinator, sharing some tips on safe sleep. And then later, we'll have our certified lactation consultant, Tawana Nottage. She'll be on to share some breastfeeding tips with you and answer all your questions today. So, again, I'm so excited to be here today. This is just more so a formal but informal conversation, and we would love to hear feedback. Feel free to ask questions in the chat about this discussion, an open discussion for moms helping moms and families helping families and supporting one another through this journey called life and expecting families and babies and just being support for one another. So again, good morning, everyone. And thank you for joining. So the first one that I'm going to bring on again is Abby Mosher. And if she is good to go, we're going to bring her on and she will begin to speak to us about bereavement. Okay, so welcome, Abby.
Hi, thank you for inviting me.
Good morning, Abby. Thank you so much for joining us today. So tell us a little bit about yourself and your program.
Right, so I am the founder and executive director of Tomorrow's Rainbow. We are a grief and trauma center for children, teens, and families who have experienced loss or trauma in addition to their loss. And we provide peer support groups as well as individual therapy for those that need it, so that when that tragedy does happen, that you don't have to feel alone in your journey and that you feel supported and have the opportunity to navigate whatever way is going to be meaningful for your journey. So we're not cookie cutter by any means. We also are a little unique in that we operate out of a miniature horse farm. We believe in the therapeutic use of horses, and so we have the ability to integrate horses into our support as well as virtual and in-person groups.
Wow, that sounds amazing. And later on, I'm sure you're going to speak about the partnership with Broward Healthy Start Coalition, because we now together, you all offer bereavement services through Tomorrow's Rainbow in different languages to be able to provide the moms and families support in our community to get these services if needed, right? Okay, so when we spoke, we talked about three different things that I would love for you to touch on. And yes, again, it is Pregnancy and Infant Loss Awareness Month, but I also thought they were great topics just in general, right? We are living in some trying times right now, definitely uncertain times, and a lot of folks are losing their loved ones due to COVID. So how do we deal or how do we cope with the loss? How would you advise a family or a mom dealing with that?
Right. And so, when we have somebody important to us die, whether it's a pregnancy, infant loss, or a child, teen, adult, we need to make sure that the very first thing that we do is we identify safe places. Where is your safe space going to be? And that might not be who your trusted person was to support you in other areas of your life, because they might not be understanding or supportive, or perhaps they're grieving as well, depending on the relationship. So we want to make sure that first we identify not only safe places, but safe people, safe
Mm,
groups, so that we can feel like we can be supported and that we're not taking on the burden of somebody else's grief, or somebody else who just might not be in the position to support us, or maybe they supported us really perfectly through other life challenges, but this
mhm.
one they're not able to connect to or not able to support us. And so that first thing is identify what's safe. And that's not going to be you're going to land on it at first. You're really going to have to listen to yourself. And if you
Right.
reach out to a group or to a person, and it doesn't feel right, then keep trying on, that slipper until the right one fits, so that you can make sure that when you are going through this terrible time, that you have a place that feels safe for you. So I'd say the first thing is to make sure that you identify what feels safe to you. Second would be not to be alone in your journey. And I know that could be really hard because sometimes you just feel like you want to be alone. But
Mhm.
knowing that, we're all made up of, we have combinations of how we address adversity, how we cope with adversity. And some people are talkers, and some people are listeners, and some people are thinkers, and some people are doers. And whatever you are is how you're going to do your grief work. So thinking that if you are not a talker, thinking that you're going to go and be in a scenario where you're expected to talk when really you're a listener and you're a person that likes to sit back and digest and relate. So definitely identifying where you are, but that doesn't mean that you have to do that alone, because if you're a listener, if you find a support group or a safe setting where you can sit back and listen and do your work in a way that makes sense to you, then you're going to feel safe, going back to that safety piece, and you'll be able to move forward through your journey. So definitely not being alone, but finding out, what does that look like? What does safe feel like? If it's a support group, making sure that it's a support group where you are able to sit back and listen, or if you're a talker, that you can go in. But certainly being with people with shared experiences
Mhm.
most often feels the most supportive. And so I'm going to say that, when we're saying don't be alone, being with people with shared experiences that can identify with you. And their circumstances are not going to be identical because nobody's are, but they will still be able to relate to you because they know that profound sadness and all of the challenges that happen in the situation. I also think it's said all the time, but it's really hard to do, which is that self-care. There are other people in your life that want to make sure that you are taking the time for yourself, and that's not a selfish act.
Mhm.
That's an act of preservation and an act of really being the best that you can be for those other people in your lives by taking care of yourself. And so what does self-care look like? It might be literally scheduling 10 minutes for yourself where you go outside and you don't have your phone and you don't have people with you.
Mhm.
Self-care might be, giving yourself a manicure, a pedicure, just making sure that you're getting the sleep that you need. But self-care is essential, and probably one of those things that we let go at first because we just can't think of, how do we take care of ourselves in this time when we feel such profound sadness? So I think, that's really important. And then the other thing that I would say is to be realistic.
Mhm.
Grief is a lifelong journey. And I think that people think that, oh, there's that time frame after that first year, after you've done all those firsts, or after the second year. And I think that being realistic about grief, when we grieve somebody, we grieve them for a lifetime. And
Mhm.
that's the impact that they left on our hearts. And so making sure that we're realistic, that we're always going to grieve them, that it is going to have ups and downs. There's going to be times when we feel like we've got this, and then there's going to be something that's going to trigger us, or a situation or a movie or a commercial that we saw that's going to bring it back, and giving ourselves permission to grieve and grieve and re-grieve through a lifetime, so that we're being realistic about what our expectation is. There just is no finish line in grief. And it's the price that we pay for getting to love so much.
Wow, that's amazing. You touched on a lot of great points. Being realistic, identifying a safe space, and going to that safe space. Also, if you can find someone with shared experiences too, so people can understand that type of particular hurt. Like you said, everyone's situation is different, but they can still identify just what that pain feels like. So I think that is awesome, and I really appreciate the feedback on that. So we're going to move on to the next one. And again, this is, I deal with my own grief, but when I try to support others who are grieving, right, I feel like that's a little bit hard because I understand that people are not like me, so how do you go about supporting someone who is going through a loss?
Yeah, so I think the first thing is to just know that none of us is great at this, no matter how much experience we have. And
Right.
so there is no book that tells us this is how you support somebody
Mhm.
during this time. So really, what we want to do is we want to sit back and pay attention to the person and the scenario, and we call that using our awareness. Is this a person who's just trying to get her surviving children to school on time? Or did we notice that the lawn started to get taller than this family is used to? So really paying attention to what might be helpful. If you're in a situation where you can ask I certainly recommend asking. But when we're grieving, sometimes we don't know what we want, and that's just an additional burden to us. So you will need to use your awareness when interacting with that person. Is this a person that really wants to say, if you could have my share of the carpool for the next week, or when your family's out cutting your lawn, do you think it's possible they'd be able to run the lawnmower over my lawn as well? But not everybody is able to do that. So really sitting back and seeing, is this a person who doesn't even know how to ask? And if they don't know how to ask, then thinking about what might be helpful, or asking their circle, what might be helpful. Could I just send, pizza on Wednesday nights for the next, because I know that's, the night that they all go out to their practices or whatever. Could that be helpful? So reaching out to people in their circle, or if you're offering something small that somebody can say, yes or no to. So, you know what, I'm making ziti for my family tonight, and ziti is so easy. I could literally make another tray for you, and then asking, is that okay? And I think that that's really important. Instead of assuming that they want a tray of ziti, asking, is that okay? Because they might not even have room in their refrigerator for the ziti, or the whole family might be gluten intolerant. Do you know what I mean? And so, certainly, if they're not capable of asking for you to support their needs, then when you are offering, to say, is that okay? Or can you think of how we could switch that up just a little bit to be helpful, instead of assuming that they need 4 trays of ziti from 6 different families, and now where are they supposed to go with all of that? So I think that's really important. The other thing is to make sure you're a great listener. When we're grieving, we really need to have the safe ability to take those emotions, feelings, thoughts, and they might be a little disorganized, and let them come out in a way that feels safe, and that flows for our unique journey. And so being a great listener means just that, listening and allowing for silence. If somebody is sharing their story or what has happened to them, they might need to think and mull things over as they're processing. And so feeling safe to just be shoulder to shoulder with them, and allowing for that silence as they share what they feel comfortable sharing, or maybe that shared space of silence will be just what they need. And then certainly I'm going to say those, please avoid these, which are the statements that start with at least, because it's never helpful. And the other statements that are ones that start with I, or me, because when somebody is going through this, unless they ask, your journey isn't important to them in that moment, and they don't want to be burdened with your grief when they're working on theirs. So a lot of times we'll go, oh, that happened to me too, and we start going into our own grief work. And when somebody is new in their grief, certainly being able to allow them to share when they want to share, be silent when they want to be silent. And if they want to know about you, they're going to ask, did you have that experience? Did you have trouble getting out of bed in the morning? Were you more clumsy? They will ask about you. But if they haven't asked about you, then let's give them the grace to have this time without burdening them with our story.
Wow. That's excellent feedback. And I'm just, you're blowing me away. All right. So we want to move on to the last segment, and it's just about how to get help. You want to talk to us a little bit about the services, and how they can reach you if they need services. What does that look like?
Right, absolutely. And there could be a whole list of things that they need help with. We don't, we would all want to assume that their help might be emotional support, because they might have this amazing support system that's going to provide them with emotional support. So we want to share the obvious, which is any type of support, whether financially, maybe they can't keep the lights on, or maybe they have a child with special needs that needs additional support during this time. So calling 211, I think, is that blanket. If you don't know, then they're the clearinghouse for every service that could possibly be available to support somebody during life's challenges. But then if we want to fine tune that and hone in on that more, certainly Broward Healthy Start Coalition is just an invaluable resource to our community. And even if they're not able to help you with your specific challenge, they are going to help you navigate to getting help and support. So that call to Broward Healthy Start Coalition, I think, is absolutely critical. And then certainly being with people with shared experiences. Again, that doesn't mean you have to talk. That might mean just sitting and listening and realizing, wow, I'm not the only person that's had that thought or that experience or that challenge. So we thank gratefully through the partnership with Broward Healthy Start Coalition have pregnancy and infant loss support groups, and we have those in Spanish, Creole, and English. They are virtual. We do have an on-site group as well, but I will say that the virtual platform is most popular now with the pandemic, and those groups meet monthly, and that's an opportunity to be with people with shared experiences, and there is no agenda. So if you are a person that just wants to sit back and realize that you're not alone and figure out at your own pace what feels right, then those are really safe spaces to do that and to be with your peers, to be with people that have had a shared experience with you. If there is, and we know that these are really trying times, and so through a global pandemic and all of the things that come along with that, if there is actually individual therapy that is needed, we are able to, through this partnership, be able to provide individual therapy with the goal of getting to the point where you do feel safe to join that support group, to be with your peers. But sometimes we're just not ready to do that yet. And so we do have individual one-on-one counseling available through the partnership with Broward Healthy Start Coalition. And so if you think, I just can't go in a group with other people that I don't know right now, I don't even know how I'll act or how I'll be, we can certainly provide individual one-on-one counseling for you, or perhaps there was a trauma involved in your loss, and so we are able to do that as well. So I think that the services are really wrap around. They are emotionally safe, and most importantly, you're going to be with people that you can relate to and people that truly, genuinely care.
Wow. So I'm going to put this information across the screen. Let me know if this is right. The number for tomorrow's Rainbow, 954-978-2390. If you are in need of bereavement support of an infant or pregnancy loss, or also you can reach out to Broward Healthy Start Coalition, 954-567-7174. That can put you through with tomorrow's Rainbow and get you set up for services. So is there anyone right now? I wasn't paying attention to the chat, but I'm not sure. Good morning, Tanya. Thank you for joining, and Shantae and Ayo Chavez. Is there anyone who have any questions right now for Abby Mosher? Again, in reference to bereavement and coping and supporting ones going through a loss. And please feel free to share this information and share this live right now, because just because this isn't necessarily your situation, there may be a friend or family that you are friends with who is going through this, and this information can be very valuable for them. So we do want to make sure that we're sharing this content. But if there's none, I just want to say again, Abby, thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure. I've heard so many wonderful things about you, but now I can add to the list when I'm going. Because that was just really, really some incredible information. Like I said, it fits so much to what's going on today with the awarenesses for the month and just everyday life, and I think a lot of us, including myself, maybe have made those mistakes just relating my own journey with someone else's. And just like you said, just give it a pause. And if they ask, share that information, but just at that time, just be present with them, while they're going through it, and just try to be supportive and avoid those eyes. And if it were me type of situation. So I just appreciate you again for joining us today. Again, folks, share this information. And if you need to reach out to Abby or her team, if you're in need of support, 954-978-2390 is the number. All right. Well, thank you so much, Abby, again for joining us.
Thank
and we'll be in touch soon. Have a good one.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye. All right, folks. Well, that was good. I'm trying not to be a tearjerker right now. So we do have Blossom coming up next. I'm going to share our Safe Sleep PSA first to give her a chance to get on. This next part of this segment, when we have Blossom coming on, as well as Tawana will join us later, is just, again, to talk mom to mom, right? I feel like, and I've been saying all week, we have sometimes moms as ourselves, or expected moms, we put this expectation on, or not give ourselves enough grace by just assuming or thinking that this is what the baby needs, or this is what we have to do. And then we're learning and people say, this is what you have to do for the baby, or you need to breastfeed, or, the baby needs to sleep alone on their back and in their crib at all times, and not so much preparing you for that transition of what it really looks like, right? Or creating some normalcy and saying, hey, it is absolutely positively normal for the baby to wake every hour and a half to 2 hours throughout the night and throughout the day. Or just saying, hey, the baby spent, 39 to 40 weeks gestation if you were able to carry full term. But even if you, delivered beforehand, the baby has spent all this time inside the womb. And now we want the baby to come out and function like a human. And it's not going to happen. The baby is not going to come out doing things that you do, because this baby is now trying to transition to what life looks like now. Now I wear a diaper, now it's louder in here. It's brighter. Where's that normal heartbeat sound that I used to hear? I don't hear it anymore. I'm used to being balled up, and now you want me to lay this way, or I'm used to just eating this way or being full this way, and now you want me to feed this way. So next up, we have some guests who are going to share some tips on how to make this transition easier, and maybe lower some of the expectations so we can be more prepared to just dealing with being a new mom or a new parent, or, if fathers are on, how the fathers could be more supportive, or also how they can, handle the baby when it comes to safe sleep or being supportive with breastfeeding, or just the transition of, having a new life in the home and how that works. Okay, so I'm going to shoot to our quick safe sleep PSA. Video. We are partnered with Neighbors for Neighbors, and it's funded by Children's Service Council, our safe sleep program. And if there's any expected moms that are on that does not have a safe sleep space, you can come through our Broward Healthy Start safe sleep program, and we will share a little bit of that information later. So I'm just going to go to our PSA, and then Blossom will be up next.
Your baby snuggled next to you for a good night's sleep. Sounds delightful. But it can be deadly. Babies die because of unsafe sleep habits.
In the past 5 years, we have lost 70 infants due to sleep-related deaths. That is not counting the 4 that have occurred this year in 2021. Out of those 70 deaths, 67% occurred in an adult bed. 4% have occurred in an unsafe sleep space, like a couch or a chair. We've had infants roll in between the wall and the mattress. We actually recently had a death like that. The common message that we want to share, not only in Broward County, but nationally, is the cornerstone of safe sleep, the ABCs. A stands for alone. Your baby should always be placed to sleep alone in the safe sleep space. B stands for back. Your baby should always be placed to sleep on their backs for each and every sleep, including nap time. And C stands for crib. We want every single baby to be placed in either a crib, a bassinet, or a portable crib, otherwise known as a pack and play.
Broward Healthy Start created initiatives to educate families and caretakers on safe sleep practices, which include a local ordinance passed in 2016 mandating childcare and daycare centers practice safe sleep habits. The ordinance also requires staff members to be trained in safe sleep, according to recommendations made by the American Academy of Pediatrics. Other initiatives include the CRIBS program, funded by the Children's Services Council of Broward County. The CRIBS program educates parents and caretakers on the importance of safe sleep and provides 450 safe sleep spaces for families in Broward County who are in need. The Model Behavior Program encourages doctors, nurses, and physician assistants to practice safe sleep habits in front of their patients, while also educating parents and caretakers on the importance of safe sleep habits. Neighbors for Neighbors would like to thank Broward Healthy Start Coalition.
All right, so we are back. Okay, so next up, I'm going to bring on Blossom Pucci. She is our Safe Sleep Crib coordinator. A lot of you have probably seen her in the community if you've received cribs from us. A lot of the other community partners, when you get crib referrals through them, deal with Blossom. So we're going to bring on Blossom, and let's get her on the screen. Good morning, Blossom. How are you?
Good. Can everyone hear me? I just turned off the mute, so I'll make sure everyone can hear me.
No, I can hear you good, and I'm loving your
Oh, thank you. It was in the the theme this morning, so I wanted to dress up. So happy Halloween, everyone. Welcome. And like Alima said, I definitely want moms to take a breather, definitely feel less pressured. I definitely agree with her. There's always like this extreme pressure to do all these rules, and you get overwhelmed as a mom, and it's a lot. It's really a lot. So take this time to pat yourselves on the backs because you're going through so much as a mom, and it's a lot. It's a lot. Pregnancy is a lot. Raising children is a lot. So we just want parents to really breathe and always keep it simple. The simpler, the better. It's not always so much about what's perfectly aligned because we are human. We do make mistakes. Things happen. We're forgetful. We have brain fog because of everything going on. So it's really important to take a breather. I always remind my moms, you're human too, your mental health is important. So we want to always keep that in check when we're thinking about even the safety of our babies. But just like Alima said earlier, there are transitional periods we don't think about as much for our babies. They're going through so much change coming from your dark belly into the bright world, and things are louder, brighter, different, and it's scary for them. It's really different. And even their bodies are changing. We always want to think about the baby's back. We always tend to remember of supporting the baby's neck when we're holding babies, but we tend to forget about supporting their backs. And that can be done throughout the day through simple activities like baby yoga, baby massages, the way we feed with them, things like that, or even when we're implementing tummy time. You want to make sure you're not overexerting the baby. I always say you can do a minute per month method. So let's say if your baby is 2 months old, you can do 1 to 2 minutes 3 times a day. That way it gets them their physical activity going. If they're 4 months old, 3 to 4 minutes 3 times a day. It's great for them to put a little less pressure on different points of their body, helps them develop physically and get some physical motion in their day to, tire them out. You want some motion going on with the baby, but we just want to think about the back. Just as how we support their necks, we want to support literally their back. We've all had our moms as children saying, straighten your back, straighten your back. So we just want to think about the development of your baby's back. They are normally curved when they're in the womb, and they're slowly transitioning to that straightening. So it's uncomfortable. It's weird for them because it's a change, and we have to remember as adults, we're already done. Our backs are already done. So we have to remember that our babies are changing. So it can be uncomfortable. They can wake up more for that because it just feels different. So I always encourage, rubbing the belly when they're on their back, when they're trying to go to sleep, which actually helps with digestion too. So you want to just keep that in mind for your baby. And just think, we have to remember that our babies are transitioning physically as they grow. So that's just one way we can do it. We also tend to worry about the bedding sometimes. A lot of moms will say, oh, my baby's bed is really hard. And that's okay. They need a harder bed than we do, as their spines are straightening. So yes, their bed's going to be way more firm than ours. So a lot of moms tend to try to stuff blankets underneath the fitted sheet to make it more cushy. But we just have to remember that your baby's changing much more differently than you are. So they do need that really firm space. So that, of course, slowly but surely helps them transition to sitting up straight. So that's just something we always want to be mindful of, especially with parents who may use boppy pillows a lot. You want to be mindful of that when you're transitioning your baby. And then you want to think about their senses, their sensory experience when they're going to bed. You want to start to transition it to make it darker in the room, quieter, more demure for them, because remember, in your womb, it's dark. All they really hear mostly is your voice. Now they can hear dad's voice, grandma's voice, music, rain, sounds, alarms. So those can be scary. So it's always really good to slowly transition your baby into having the room darker, really wind them down for sleep times versus having really bright areas, things like that. You can make it more subtle for them so they can easily fall asleep, because children are easily startled. So you want to be mindful of that when they're going to sleep, whether it's nap time or bedtime overnight. And like I said, it is normal for babies to consistently wake up. That's a normal infant pattern. Babies do not normally just sleep in a row. They have little hiccups here and there, and that's completely normal. It's we just want to make sure that we're paying attention to that and not worrying that, oh, my baby wakes up every 2 hours, but that is just part of their, I call them cat naps, that they just go through, and it's very normal for the babies. And you also want to think about their temperature. Babies get hot. They get very hot, just like we do. They run the same temperature of 96 to 97 degrees like we do. I promise you, your baby will not freeze over. We are in South Florida. So you want to be super cautious of that too. When a baby is very hot in their sleep, they will start to sweat. They will start to get uncomfortable. It labors their breathing, which can again affect their sleeping patterns. So you want to make sure that you're not overdressing them. Think long sleeve versus excessive layers. Like you can do like the long sleeve onesies, the ones with the feeties, things like that. Think more of that versus excessive layers. And of course, like we always do for ABCs, no blankets. You can use sleep sacks or swaddlers with buttons and zippers as they can't unravel. Those also help the baby feel more encased, a lot like how you are in the womb. So those are much better alternatives and safer ones at that. So, but still, again, just being mindful of not excessive dressing. I know we have this like stigma that babies are just freezing cold all the time. But I always say you can use your own body as a measurement. If you're freezing in your house, maybe your baby is too. But if you're hot, your baby's probably hot too. You can always do simple touches to their skin and see, okay, he feels kind of clammy. Okay, she feels cold to the touch versus, well, they feel fine. I think they're okay. You know, things like that. You don't want to like overwhelm your baby. So I always say, keep it super simple, you know, simple, simple, simple. You don't need a huge humidifier in the room for the baby. You don't need like a magical music thing for your baby. You can keep it very, very simple. A lot of times moms want every gadget in the world that's sold to them. And a lot of times that just makes it more complicated, more overwhelming for the mom. And the next thing you know, you have 20 gadgets you don't use and they don't affect your baby's sleep. So really, as a mom, keep it super, super simple, relaxed, go day by day with your baby is really the most important thing. And it's the best way to keep them safe. If they're in a crib space, a bassinet, crib, or a pack and play, they are safe. We're avoiding excessive blankets, pillows, things like that. We don't want any of that in the bed space. Like I said, the simplest, the better, and the better for you too. And it's less to clean up too. So things like that. But it's really, really important that we just kind of put our minds into the mindset of a baby, things that are changing. We tend to forget that, yes, they're little humans, but they're going through so many changes all at once. Everything is new to them. Even turning over is a new experience for them. So it's overwhelming. And then teething happens, growing happens, hiccups happen. So we just want to make sure that we're just really empathizing with our babies, knowing that they're going through many changes, and if we understand the changes, then we can better handle them. Like, okay, I see why this is happening with the baby. Maybe this is why they're feeling this way because, oh, they're teething. Oh, they're growing. A lot of parents don't know, like hiccups. Hiccups happen the most between infants because their bodies are stretching. Their organs are going. So there's spaces between their body parts. So it makes more hiccups. So something simple as that, knowing why it happens, helps you understand how to adjust to it better. So, you know, just little things like that. And if there's any questions.
Well, first, Blossom, if you can just touch on the Safe Sleep program and how
sure.
moms can qualify. What do you need to qualify for the Safe Sleep program, and how can they reach you? I know I put the number at the bottom and the email,
Yes.
but what does a mom need?
So to qualify for our program, you have to be a Broward County resident. You have to be at least 30 weeks pregnant or have had a baby. If you do have a baby, it would have to be under the age of 1 year old. You would have to show a proof of financial needs, such as using WIC, Medicaid, food stamps, something like that, or unemployment. And that's pretty much it. It's the 3 points. So those are the 3 points. If you know someone that's like that and qualifies, you can definitely send in their information. I do weekly classes on Tuesday, like group classes, every Tuesday at 11. If you can't make that class, we do them sporadically throughout the week by demand. So if you need it on a Tuesday or Friday morning, we do that. On the afternoons, we do it. It's all virtual. It's via Zoom, so there's no traveling involved. And then after that, you do the full course with me. It's 1 hour, which you get the full encapsulation of safe sleep methods and tips. Anyone is welcome to join. You can do it just to do it. Grandparents, aunts, uncles, dads, we want everyone to do it. Even if you don't want or don't need a crib space, you're more than welcome to take the class. We do it all the time. So it's always available for our community, staff, anyone. And we love it when grandparents join because a lot of that stuff is new to them. So the information is there too. And then I can put my email too for a secondary one.
Okay, so if you can put your email in the chat and just encourage families, I would. Yeah. Anyone who's going to be watching your baby, if it's a grandparent, it's a son or an uncle, to take these free trainings. Like Blossom said, it's just an hour. They're free to everyone. They can do it virtually, just to know, how to care for your baby when you're not around, because that's important too. And a lot of times, things have changed over the years, and we are some can get very stuck on what was appropriate in the past, and through studies that have shown that these methods don't work anymore. So just for people to be mindful of saying, hey, this is what I need you to do for my baby while they're in your care. They can attend these free safe sleep trainings that is held by Blossom or the Safe Sleep Program Manager. If there's any professionals on and they would like to get a safe sleep training for them or their staff, contact is the same. You can reach out to us, 954-567-7174, or email safesleep@browardhsc.org.
Did I put it in the right spot?
Say again?
Did I put it in the right spot?
Well, I don't see it, but I do have this. And let me see. You want to read all to me what your email is? No, you put it in the private chat. You need to go to where it says comments. If you put it where it says comments, you should be able to write your email in where they can reach you. So again, to the families watching, no tons of overlayering. A long sleeve onesie or a foot-in sleeper or a sleep sack. Please avoid putting things to make the baby's mattress softer. They're sewed like that because that's how they need to be. Babies don't need that extra cushiony pillow top mattress that you have for your bed, because the babies are different. Just like Blossom said, we're trying to get their spine adjusted and just get them regulated. And it's very normal for them to wake up frequently. It's very normal for them to be uncomfortable. They've spent all the time inside of you, feeling nurtured and protected. And now they're out, and this is a big, big world, and they're just getting adjusted. It's very normal for the frequent wakes. It's very normal for the frequent feedings. So I guess just as I say, just to lower the expectations a little bit. And just like Abby was saying earlier on today, just be a little bit more realistic about what is happening. And I feel that when you know what will happen or know what to expect, then it'll be more easier to deal with. And then you can try to avoid things like changing the baby on the bed or being so quick to put the baby in a swing, because then they like that habitat. And then when you try to lay them asleep on their backs, they're looking at you like you're crazy. It's very normal for that baby to be knocked out, and then you lay your baby down and it's a quick 5 or 10 minute nap and they're up again. It's normal. You're going to have to continue to repeat that and to get the baby adjusted and to feel comfortable. So it's nothing that you're doing wrong. It's just a process, but staying committed and having a routine will help the transition from womb to bed a lot easier. Okay. So if there's no questions for Blossom in the chat, please take down this number. So if you have any future questions or you want to reach out to her to receive one of these safe sleep trainings, the information is above. But again, thank you so much, Blossom, for joining us today.
Thank you.
Again.
Thank you, guys, and happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween. All right. So next up, and last but certainly not least, we have Tawana Nada. She is a certified lactation consultant. I've known her for many years. She is very wonderful at what she does. She's helped so many moms in the Broward County community. She's going to come on for any of these moms who are breastfeeding or pumping to be able to answer your questions and also to share tips on how you can be more successful or how to make breastfeeding a little bit easier for you. So I'm going to bring on Tawana next. Hope she's ready.
Or how to make breastfeeding a little bit easier for you. So I'm going to bring on
Tawana. I hear an echo.
Hi, can you hear me, Alima?
I hear you, but I hear an echo. Something else is on. I can hear me. There we go. All right. Good morning, Tawana. Thank you for joining us today. You want to start out by just telling us a little bit about who you are and where you work? You can't hear? You're going to have to take off the earbuds. You can't hear me? Take these out. Can you hear me now? I can hear you shuffling. Okay. Okay, I see you're on mute. You got to take yourself off. Can you hear me? But now you're on mute, so you got to take yourself off mute.
Okay, can you hear me now?
I can hear you now. Don't worry, this
All
is
right.
live. We expected. Little trials and tribulations. Well, welcome. Good morning, Tawana. Thank you for joining us. All right, you want to introduce yourself?
All right, my name is Tawana Nadish. I work for the Florida Department of Health, the Broward County WIC program. I am the peer counselor supervisor for the north end of the county. Also a part of the Breastfeeding Coalition here in Florida. I'm a mother of 6. I've exclusively breastfed all of my kids. The longest is for 3 years, not exclusively breastfeeding though. He was eating other foods. And the shortest is for 6 months. So I'm happy to answer any questions that you ladies may have for me today.
All right, that is great. So I think I want to start out with sharing some tips, right? Because again, I said I just want moms to lower the expectations a little bit. And I always feel like knowledge is power. So the more you know, the easier the transition could be by preparing yourself. So what type of tips do you feel like are important or relevant for a mom to know who knows she wants to breastfeed, but she hasn't had the baby yet? What are some of the key tips that you feel like she needs to know going into this journey?
Okay, so the first thing a mom, should do is educate herself. So if you see any like breastfeeding classes online or support groups, try to get that education ahead of time. If you're going to have your partner or your spouse, both of you guys can go to those series together, the mom-to-mom groups and or any online breastfeeding classes. So educating yourself before you deliver is very, very important.
And what about with their obstetrician or OB? Is that something, a conversation they should have with them, or should they wait till they get to the hospital to discuss their breastfeeding plans?
No, your breastfeeding plan should start out the moment you find out that you're pregnant. So with the education, okay, your visits to your obstetrician's office and letting them know, that you do plan on breastfeeding. You want to do that first hour of skin to skin once you deliver. That first hour is very, very important, okay? It promotes bonding. It helps the baby's heart rate as well as yours. And that's your, like your getting to know you phase, those first few days when you're in the hospital. You've been carrying that little person in you for 9 months and you finally get to meet each other. So you want to make sure that you do the skin to skin and also room in with your baby. That's very, very important in the hospital. And you want to also make sure that you ask for help while you're there. Don't be afraid to ask them to help you with get the baby in the right position and helping you with getting him or her latched on properly.
Right. And I also feel like I like that you said to help them, but you can ask for help more than once. Don't think, okay, because the IBCLC, which is the International Board Certified Lactation Consultant, who normally comes to your room once they know that you have a breastfeeding plan to assist you. But if she came on Monday and you're still there Tuesday and Wednesday, don't think that you should just know what you should be doing. If you need her again, feel free to reach out to have them come visit you again, or every day that you're in the hospital, to make you feel more comfortable and secure your breastfeeding techniques. Okay, so Tawana, now mom's home with the baby, right? And say she now is coming into the clinics for support if she does have WIC. What are some of the common barriers that you see moms go through, and what are some of the tips that you would share for them to overcome those barriers when they're breastfeeding?
Okay, so the first couple of days after you get home, you're going to feel overwhelmed. That is perfectly normal. I'm a mother of 6, and I can tell you, I also, I was a teen mother as well. So that was a very stressful time. So the support, your spouse, your family, you're going to need that extra support. Any help that they can give you, which is the laundry, the dishes, or anything like that, make sure you ask for it, because trying to do it on your own can be very stressful. All right. So some of the common concerns that I see at the WIC office will be like, I don't know if my baby's getting enough, or like, how many times per day should I be feeding? All right. Breastfeeding is supply and demand. The more you breastfeed, the more milk you'll make. The less you do it, the less you'll make. And you have to have patience. In the beginning, you're going to be a little frustrated, but as long as you have patience and you're willing to work with the baby and the baby's working with you, everything else will fall in place. So just make sure that you have that support. If you're still having issues with breastfeeding, let's say, for instance, baby can't latch, you can always come into the WIC office. We have 7 WIC offices here in Broward County, and we have lactation consultants at each one. We have IBCLCs at 2 at the south end of the county and the north end of the county that can help you with getting your baby to latch on. So any questions you might have, always reach out to the WIC office. And like I said, don't be afraid to ask for help with the little things. You want to make sure that you're not feeling overwhelmed to where that you can't do what you're supposed to do for a baby. All right. And making sure that you're breastfeeding at least between 10 to 12 times per day.
Okay, so before we go on, I want to get to this question Shantae just posted in the chat. She says that her baby may need surgery once delivered due to a lung possible breathing issue. Should she start pumping immediately instead and then try to breastfeed once she recovers?
Okay, so she hasn't had the baby yet.
Yeah, it seems that she's still pregnant, because she says the baby may need surgery once delivered. So I'm going to assume that she's still pregnant. So what she's saying is, should she start pumping immediately after she have the baby because she wants the baby to receive milk and then try to breastfeed once the baby recovers? Or is it okay for her to start breastfeeding the baby once the baby is born?
Okay, so with that, I would advise her to wait. She can pump. Once she delivers, they're going to get her in the room and she can start pumping as soon as possible. With the latching part, she'll need to work with the IBCLC that's on staff to get, baby and her together. Once he or she feels, up to par to start breastfeeding, but pumping as soon as she gives birth, that's fine.
Okay. So I hope that answered your question, Shantae. And also I want to say, just thinking, possibly if the baby needs surgery, in some cases, or in most cases, I feel like the baby is still able to latch and breastfeed. They may have a restriction where at a certain time they want you to stop breastfeeding just to make sure that the baby hasn't taken any liquid in. I want to say I believe within 4 to 6 hours. But again, that's the conversation to have with the pediatrician and definitely with your OB to talk about what that will look like. But once you have the baby in the hospital, definitely request the IBCLC. She'll be better to assess your situation while you're there and be able to see. And she can hook you up and show you how to pump correctly. And just having an understanding or expectation what the pumping will look like when you get there. Right. You're not a cow, Shantae, so you're not going to be having a gallon of milk as soon as your baby is born.
That is definitely correct, because a lot of moms, they feel like, oh my God, once you deliver, you're going to have like this abundance amount of milk. That it doesn't happen, ladies. You're in the hospital for like 2 or 3 days, and depending on what type of delivery you have, sometimes your milk can be delayed a little bit, but let's not expect an abundance amount of milk. You're going to have that first milk, which is called colostrum, which helps coat the baby's stomach so they can pass that first stool. So in the beginning, breastfeed, breastfeed, breastfeed. All right. Once you get home, you're gonna see a difference in your breast. All right. So breastfeeding is best. Just try not to get distracted with the amount in the beginning, because the more you do it, the more your body is going to make.
Okay, so we have another question. They was waiting for you, Tawana.
I see.
All right, we have another question from Tanya. Is it safe to take supplements to boost your milk production?
All right. So with the supplements, I always tell my moms, you can take I've heard so many different supplements that women can take. But I would say make sure you talk to your OB first or the pediatrician before you consume anything. Some supplements affect women in different ways. They have lactation teas that you can drink. There's a lot of different things out there on the market, but you want to make sure that you're taking something that is recommended by your pediatrician or your OB, not just something, that someone else says that works for them, because what works for them might not necessarily work for you, but the baby will always work for you. So like I said, the more you breastfeed, the more milk you'll make.
All right, Tanya, so I hope that was great. And thank you for that question. That is a great one. I hear a lot of people talking about these supplements and mother's milk tea, which I have drank. But to be honest, your only supplement and your booster is the baby.
Exactly.
Right. The baby is going to establish your milk supply by feeding frequently and trying to avoid any type of supplement feeding except for breastfeeding, because supply and demand, when the baby removes it, the milk is going to come in more. And then when those cluster feeds happen, that's going to help. The baby is saying, hey, mom, I know you're giving me this amount, but I need you to work a little bit harder. And then the body is going to produce more milk. So it's not a sign that the baby is not getting enough, but the baby is growing. So,
and I like that, Alima. You're right about that, because some moms, they feel like, oh my God, he wants to eat like every 1.5 to 2 hours. Maybe I don't have enough to give him. But he's preparing you. He's preparing you for the increase in your appetite. And so you have to watch out for those, those hunger signals. It's normal for them to eat often, because you have to remember, breastfeeding, it's to me, it is an all day thing, so you have to be ready, 10 to 12 times per day is normal. As long as baby is peeing, pooping, and gaining weight, and you can see those physical changes in him or her, that lets you know that you're doing a wonderful job.
Now, I know you said the peeing and pooping. So what tip would you give to a mom? How would she be able to check to know she's getting enough milk? Because I know moms all the time will say, well, when I pump, I only get an ounce. So this is what my baby is getting. And we explain all the time that's not what your baby is receiving, and that the pump is different than the baby. So how could a mom, gauge how much the baby is taking in? What are some things that she could look for?
Okay, so like I said, you can look for the diapers, okay, and the fit. So a newborn typically will go through, let's say, 6 to 8 diapers in a day. All right, that's peeing and pooping. Sometimes when you're breastfeeding, they're doing those things as well. So they're having those bowel movements and they're peeing. So just watching out for the diapers. And then once you take your baby to that first doctor's visit, it's normal for them to lose a little bit of weight in the beginning. Now back to that 2-week visit, they should have regained their birth weight and a little bit more. So keeping up with the weight gain is very, very important. And also, like I said, the physical appearance, you can tell with that as well.
Okay, thank you so much for that. Okay, so now I think we're going to move into the next phase, and that's going back to work, right? Moms, a lot of moms think, oh, I can't breastfeed because I'm going to go back to work. And it's like, okay, but you still can breastfeed, and you can also pump to be able to supply your baby with the breast milk when you have that separation. So when is a good time for a mom to start pumping, to start storing milk?
Okay, so I would say at least 4 weeks, 4 to 6 weeks, and it depends on when you're going back to work. Some moms, they just want to pump so that their partner or their spouse can feed the baby to take off some of the, relief from them. but typically 4 to 6 weeks with the pumping. And you can start storing your milk in the refrigerator. It's good up into 8 days. If you're going to put it in the deep freezer, it's good up until 6 months. In the refrigerator freezer, it's good up until 3 months. But, it depends on what you're storing your breast milk in. But usually most moms start pumping around 4 to 6 weeks.
Okay, mom. So any mom that's out there that is thinking about when they're going back to work, 4 to 6 weeks is a good time to start pumping, especially if you're getting those 12 weeks off or you're taking that 12-week leave. Please don't wait till week 11 and then you're trying to pump and you don't have a good supply, because then it's going to be somewhat frustrating to you, and then you don't want to feel like you're forced to use supplements. So take the time, and I'm not saying now it's 4 weeks, and now on top of you feeding, between 8 to 12 times a day, that you need to be pumping those amounts, right? No. You want to start edging those pump sessions in, and start storing your milk so you can prepare to have that separation.
And one thing that you ladies should do is let your place of employment know that you do want to pump while you're at work. Find out their policy to see. But if you're working like an 8-hour period, at least try to pump at least 3 times per day, 1 in the morning, 1 in the afternoon, and 1 right before you leave. If you don't get that 1 in right before you leave, at least you're on your way to go get baby, and then you can breastfeed him or her when you get them. But let your employer know that you do plan on pumping while you're at work, so that they can have a space for you, to express your milk.
All right. Now, since we're on the topic of pumping, I know we didn't really touch into that, but think about a mom who just may not feel comfortable latching the baby on, but knows they want to breastfeed or know they want the baby to receive breast milk. What is the expectation, or how many times would you suggest that a mom pump during the day to be able to exclusively provide breast milk to her baby?
Okay, so my suggestion would at least be 6 to 8 times per day. If you can, 6 will be the max, but 8 will be kind of pushing it. But if you can express 6 to 8 times per day, then you should be able to keep up with your baby's demands.
Okay, so that lady, that's falling about every 3 to 4 hours, a nice pump session. And I only want you to touch on this because just in our experience, right, we have moms who they buy the pumps, or you can receive the pump through your insurance companies. They will provide the pump for you. There's a lot of different organizations like aeroflow.com and these different places where they will process your pump provided by your insurance. And even though I see some of these pumps still come with a CD-ROM, I mean, I don't know who has a DVD player anymore, but I know moms aren't watching it, right? So how are you supposed to pump? I feel like that was always a question. The moms, I would ask them, how do you pump? So what should you do when you're pumping?
You should be relaxed. And I see that one question here is, how long do you need to pump during each session? 15 minutes max. Sometimes it might not even take that long unless you're using, a dual electric pump, but anything over 15 minutes, it's a long time. So 15 minutes max with the pumping. And Alima, what was your question again with the?
No, I was just saying like how to use it, because I find that a lot of moms don't know how to use the pump. So we'll hear things like, oh, I kept it on high the whole time. Or I put everything on the max suction and the max speed, and my nipples are cracked or they're hurting. Right. And so what is the expectation, or how should the moms work the pump in order to reach the amounts that they need to see? And each amount, I'm sure, is different. It's not going to be the same every time you pump.
That is correct. And making sure that you get a great pump and making sure those flanges fit you correctly is very important. So if you're going to the hospital to deliver, sometimes I would suggest that you take the pump to the hospital. That way, whoever's there, the IBCOC or maybe the nurse, can let you know if the flanges are a little bit too big or too small. You can also, come to the WIC office. We love to help moms and, making sure that the baby's latched correctly, as well as your pump fits correctly. And we also have like attachments. If those attachments didn't work for you, we can give you some attachments to use depending on what kind of pump you have. But with the pumping, you just have to stay consistent throughout the day. If you plan on, just strictly pumping, the key to that is consistency.
Well, that's an excellent tip too. When they're at the hospital. So if you have your pump already, take your pump to the hospital. But if you do not, and you know that you're going to, you're planning to pump, it may be best that you ask the IBCLC at the hospital to just take a look at your breast and to determine the size flange that you need. Flange meaning that funnel that you use to express your milk. Because I know a lot of women, or just through counseling, we hear just because a mom thinks that she's well endowed, meaning that she has a bigger cup and bigger size, that she needs the biggest flange. And that's not true. And that will also impact and or affect how your milk is coming out if the flange size is not correct. Or sometimes moms may use one that's too small and it literally seems like it's trying to pull your whole areola through the pump. And then that's also uncomfortable and will cause for sore and cracked nipples too. So that is a great suggestion. Bring your pump with you. And if you don't have a pump yet, but you know you're planning to pump, ask the IBCLC, hey, can you take a look and just tell me what would be the appropriate size for me to use going forward, so that way you know which pump would be the most comfortable for you to use. Okay, so now, is there any tips that you can share as moms are transitioning to solids? So they normally say around 6 months they can start offering solids. So is there anything that you can suggest to help moms sustain their milk supply then?
Okay, so with the breastfeeding, like I said, consistency is key. All right, and with the solids, depending on most breastfed babies start solids around 6 months, unless other recommended by your pediatrician. They usually start solids at 6 months. So with the solids, you want to make sure that you try. I would try one fruit or one veggie. Always start with the veggies first because babies typically seem not to like those. But start with the veggies first. All right, and just try that out for like a week to make sure there's no reaction to the jar food. That's very important. So try one fruit or veggie for that whole week, or just for like 3 days. I'm gonna say a week, just to be on the safe side, to find out if there's any allergies or whatever. But and then you can start introducing it to them. But you can start solids as early as 6 months.
Okay, so ladies, thank you so much, Tawana, for all your great tips and feedback. Is there any other ladies who have a question for Tawana in the chat? The time is now only for this moment. And then again, I think I have some information on the WIC office on how they can reach you for more information. Okay, we have someone on here. So Portia, I have reversed my whole breastfeeding method. I went from exclusively pumping to now latching, and I feel my milk production has decreased. What do you suggest?
Okay, so I'm not sure, but you can try like if you were exclusively pumping in the beginning to now latching. I mean, I'll have to talk to her like one-on-one just to see, why was she exclusively pumping in the beginning, to see, why did the baby just now start latching on, and how old is the baby? But my suggestion is that you can breastfeed baby, and then you can go back and pump to put that more of a demand on your body, and make sure that you're drinking enough water, because water is the key. Baby's taken away from you, so you have to make sure that you're replenishing your thirst.
Yes, so I think that is a great answer to Tawana. And also, I guess one of the questions that I would probably have for the mom is, what makes you feel that your milk production has decreased? And if you want to answer that in the chat, Portia, feel free to go ahead and write that. And the only thing that I could think of is why you would think that is because you can't see it. I guess it's harder to know what the baby is, taking in if you're going now back to exclusively latching, and now you can't actually see that. So I'm going to also put Tawana's information up here for how to reach her at the WIC office, or just for the breastfeeding warm line. If you have any questions or concerns, you can call that warm line number 954-467-4511. And also you can call the WIC office, which I should know that number because it's on one of my friends around here. But while I go on and search for that to schedule an appointment, or you can just walk in, I believe, to go to the local WIC office to receive some assistance with latching or pumping, or request to see an IBCLC who can assist you there. Now, Tawana, do you know this WIC number offhand? Because I don't have my glasses. I know y'all see me zooming in.
The one that you have on here is correct. And if she wants to reach me directly out, give me her information, and then I'll reach out to her after the presentation.
All right. So now Portia. So, okay, she wrote some more stuff. This is a tough journey, my Lord. Baby's now is 2 months. She stopped pumping and went from saving milk to requesting supplements from my OBGYN.
Okay. And sometimes, with breastfeeding, I don't know if she might be taking birth control. It's a like a whole range of things of why your milk supply can go down. So that really needs like a consult on my part. So if you can get her information, I'll reach out to her this afternoon.
So Portia, please instant message us on the Broward Healthy Start Coalition Facebook page. And Tawana will contact you after this event or later today to do an assessment over the phone and be able to assist you so we can get your milk supply back up and your baby can continue to be exclusively breastfed or exclusively receiving breast milk.
Right.
So don't forget, you got to make sure you message me. You don't have to put it on live on this chat, but just go to the instant messenger portion on the Broward Healthy Start Coalition Facebook page with your first, last name, and phone number. And I can have Tawana reach out to you today to further assess your situation. Do we have any other moms on today or anyone else who has a question for Tawana in reference to breastfeeding, pumping, or any of the tips that she has shared? I know we are running a little bit over, but we want to make sure we can answer everyone's questions. And I always want to put this out for any mom who does not have WIC or may think you may not qualify for WIC. I always say just go. Just talk to someone. You can still see an IBCLC that day or a certified lactation consultant that day to get some help and/or assistance. So don't just think, because a lot of the situations are different too, for income guidelines and things of that sort, because right now you could be on leave. Like I said, again, don't just rule yourself out. Just call them, set up an appointment, go by, say you're struggling with breastfeeding, call that breastfeeding warm line number. Say, hey, listen, I'm having some trouble. You can say you saw Lima and Tawana on Facebook and you want to come in and get some assistance. And they will direct you to the right person on staff who can be able to help you with your situation. All right. So hello, Jessica. Thank you for joining us today. All right, so if there's no more questions left, Tawana, thank you so much for joining us today and sharing your great tips and information about breastfeeding. Moms, again, if you have any further questions or concerns, you can either message us on Broward Healthy Start Coalition's Facebook page, and I will forward those questions to Tawana or your information to them so they can better assist you. Some of you moms know, y'all, if you call the Healthy Start Coalition and you get me, I will get you your appointment right away over there across the street at the WIC office. So don't be afraid to reach out. So again, to reiterate some of the things she said, support factors are big, and not just assuming that people know what support is. You have to tell people what you need from them. To breastfeed continuously. Breastfeeding is on demand. So every 10 to 12 times a day, which falls about around every 2 hours. So it is to be expected. You are not starving your babies, moms. I promise. No. Babies eat every 2 hours. They're not like us where they can hold off. They are going to eat. Babies wake frequently. Babies sleep about an hour and a half to 2 hours. And sometimes those hour and a half to 2 hours can turn to 5 to 10 minutes. So again, that is perfectly normal. So the advice is to put your baby in a safe sleep space. Right. Just to fit a sheet, no extra added things inside of their crib. And when they sleep, you sleep. I think that is the most ignored advice that
rest when you can. Baby sleep, you sleep.
Yes. That is the number one most ignored advice that a mom gives. But I guarantee you, once you get to that second child, as I shared with my friend the other day, as soon as that baby closed their eyes, you would immediately, with the snores, be somewhere. So again, once baby falls asleep, put baby in their safe sleep space, nothing surrounding them, alone on their back and in their crib.
Right.
And take that nap. And once the baby wakes up, maybe you can do like a carrier option to do little light things that you're trying to do while the baby is awake. Okay. Mm-hmm. So again, thank you everyone for joining. Please share again for any body who possibly missed it today. I know this was last minute that I threw it out there, but I definitely felt this talk was needed in honor of SIDS awareness and pregnancy and infant loss awareness month. Thanks again to Abby Marshall, who joined us earlier today from Tomorrow's Rainbow. Thank you to Blossom Pucci for sharing her safe sleep advice. And also thank you to Ms. Tawana for coming on today, helping our moms out with the breastfeeding. So again, if that'll be all, thanks so much for everyone for joining, and we'll see you next time. Oh, and don't forget, I know I didn't put it in there, but for any of my Creole speaking moms and Creole speaking families, Our next event is next Friday on November 5th. It is our Haitian community baby shower. If you know anyone who is pregnant or recently had a baby up to 12 months, they are invited to attend. It will be virtual. It'll be housed on our Urban League's Facebook page, as well as Healthy Stars Facebook page. But you need to register. Look back on Healthy Stars Facebook page today to get that registration link and to see the flyer, because I'm not sure if I posted it yet, because I'm a woman of many trades.
Yes.
So I want to make sure I get that up. But that is going to be next Friday from 10:30 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. But we'll be touching on some great topics involving pregnancy and new parenting families and new parenting traditions. Also touching on COVID, stress, and HIV and STI awareness. All right. So thank you again for everyone for joining, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.